If you're like me, you came out of the White Lotus season finale like,
well, that was stressful. I thought I was going to have a grand mal seizure.
Luckily, I was hopped up on more lorazepam than Victoria.
I don't even have my lorazepam. I'm going to have to drink myself to sleep.
In a season that has single-handedly made receding hairlines sexy again, the finale wraps up all our stories and answers what's been on everyone's mind since episode 1. Who dies? And in this video we'll be breaking down its biggest moments and how they connect with the entire season. But before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe so that I can one day live out my dream of going on a yacht with my brother.
Stop it. Get some help.
Arguably the most tragic of our fates belongs to that of Rick Hatchett and his lover Chelsea. In fact, their final dinner together hints at their end.
And at this point we're linked, so if a bad thing happens to you, it happens to me.
Chelsea refers to Rick finally being free after returning from Bangkok and coming face to face with the man he thought killed his father. Now unburdened by the lust for revenge, Rick can focus on loving Chelsea and even acknowledges wanting to spend the rest of his life with her.
That's the plan.
Both Rick finding his joy back and Chelsea's eventual death is foreshadowed in this chilling line from episode 1.
No, I'm gonna help you get your joy back.
Good luck with that.
Even if it kills me.
Rick's journey falls under what Chelsea calls Amor Fati, also the name of this episode. It's a philosophical concept that encourages embracing everything that happens in life, whether it be good or bad, as necessary and even desirable. Take, for example, you miss out on a job opportunity. You could sit around and be consumed by regret, or you could see it as a learning opportunity that will lead you to something better. Fate tells us we cannot change what happens, but we can change how we perceive it. So Amor Fati, in short, is all about aligning our will with our fate, and that's what happens to Rick. Well, it seems Rick's story is complete. Everything changes when the next day, Jim Hollinger, the owner of White Lotus Thailand and the man who supposedly killed his father, shows up. Remember that Rick tells Frank the reason he couldn't go through with killing him was that when he looked at him, all he saw was a weak old man. The Jim Rick meets here is far from it, calling Rick's mother a drunken slut and liar. He even intimidates him by brandishing a pistol. It's this moment that propels Rick into making the biggest decision of his life, and one that gets at one of the season's biggest thematic questions. Are we bound to fate, or do we make our own choices? Choices like, will Belinda take the money? Will Gaitok turn in the Russians? Will Tim kill his family? But what if you don't believe that fate is fixed like Amor Fati? It just so happens the show's background of Thailand offers a counter perspective in the Buddhist belief of karma.
You can let go of your story. You can escape the karmic cycle.
You could argue that Rick's death was karma for killing Jim. He did something bad, therefore something bad happens to him. It makes this line from episode 1 all the more striking.
Oh, this is so on brand for you. To be a victim of your own decisions.
But the real shocker here is the revelation that Jim was his real father. According to Rick's mother, his father was a great man who died before he was born, and perhaps this lie was made up to protect him from the truth.
Wanted you to think your father was some kind of great man. Your father was no saint.
So Rick spent his entire life harboring this hatred only to find out it was based on a lie. Now Rick is forced to make a decision that will change his life forever. Does he break free from this karmic cycle and choose to run away with Chelsea, or does he kill the man he thinks murdered his father? This is one of life's tests, as Lochlan says to Saxton.
But what if this life is just a test? Like, to see if we can become better people.
By choosing to kill, Rick seals his fate and that of his lover. The two are linked and now will forever be so in death.
You're not gonna get rid of me that easy. If you kill me, I'll follow you into the next life and the next.
In fact, Chelsea is basically a walking foreshadower who in episode 306 states,
Bad luck comes in threes.
she almost died in a robbery, almost died to a snake bite, and then dies in the crossfire. I guess bad luck does come in threes. The whole Rick freeing the snakes becomes a metaphor for their journey. He feels trapped and burdened by an external force, like the snakes, only to free them and attack the thing he loves most. Rick is the snake in this analogy who ends up being the reason for his lover's death. The last we see of these two, or who we believe to be them, are their bodies being loaded onto a plane, much like we've seen the bodies of our past season's victims. Now, I gotta say, I had no idea how the Ratliffs were going to end this season, and it had me guessing up until the very end. Ever since the paterfamilias Timothy discovered he might lose his entire fortune, the man has dreamed of killing his family more times than Tanya thinks the gays are trying to kill her.
Please, these gays, they're trying to murder me.
Throughout the season, we watch as Timothy, Victoria, and Saxton in particular embrace their materialistic life. Piper and Lochlan, however, are the holdouts, with Piper wanting to leave her world behind to study Buddhism. But even she has a change of heart, stating how she hates how she loves this princess life.
I know I'm not supposed to be attached to this kind of stuff. I don't know, I think I am.
And Tim, who hasn't told his family about their impending financial troubles, has to live through each of them exclaiming how they couldn't bear life if they were poor. Victoria says,
Just don't think at this age I'm meant to live an uncomfortable life.
Saxton says the only thing that gives him meaning is his job, which would be gone if his father's business went under. And Piper ultimately gives into her life of opulence, choosing to go back home rather than live life at a Buddhist temple. Tim tests his youngest son, Lochlan, asking him,
Think you could live with no money?
And Lochlan is the only one in the family who doesn't say something along the lines of, I'll kill myself if I lose what I have. It's this outlook that makes Tim make sure Lochlan doesn't drink one of the poisonous Pina Coladas. Tim thinks by killing his family he would be saving them from a life of poverty. All of them except Lochlan said they couldn't live being poor. The book Lochlan reads is called A Wall of Ocean, a reference to tsunamis. Lochlan has had a fascination with them, watching videos of them and recounting stories. Many theorize that Lochlan would be the body floating in the water in episode 1. He has a connection to water, being the only family member to use this sleep deprivation tank, and the image appearing alongside the actor's name in the title credits depicts a person in water. When he had his near-death experience, it manifests in drowning, as he looks up to see 4 bald figures looking down at him. These appear to be Buddhist monks, or perhaps Buddhas themselves, ones who have achieved enlightenment. These 4 are known as devas, a Sanskrit word which roughly translates to God, which would explain why, when Lochlan comes back to life, he says he saw God. In true White Lotus fashion, the writers leave it up to us to fill in the blanks as to what happens next for the Ratliffs. While Tim does get his phone, he doesn't turn it on, rather telling his family that things are about to change and they'll get through it because they're strong. Interesting words considering just last night he planned on killing them. It's kind of ironic that Tim almost inadvertently killed the one son he didn't want to kill. Now we have to talk about the 2 characters who have appeared on previous White Lotus seasons. I'm talking about Belinda Lindsay and Greg Hunt, who also goes by the alias Gary. Now there will be some season 1 and 2 spoilers, so skip ahead to this time if you want to get to the next section. In season 1, Greg met multimillionaire Tanya McCoy at the White Lotus Hawaii where Belinda worked. In fact, one of the reasons Belinda is in Thailand is to learn from the workers and bring back that knowledge to the Hawaii location. While season 2 doesn't feature Belinda, we find Greg and Tanya married and their relationship on the rocks. It's heavily implied that Greg ordered a hit on Tanya in order to get her $500 million fortune. This is how he's able to afford this luxurious lifestyle. So sometime between seasons 2 and 3, Greg meets Chloe through a Dubai dating service and the two move to Thailand to keep a low profile. But everything is thrown upside down in Greg's world when Belinda recognizes him from Hawaii. You see, back in season 1, Belinda and Tanya formed a connection, with Tanya promising Belinda to fund her business venture. But of course, with Tanya dead, that could never happen. So when Belinda finds out that Tanya was found dead under mysterious circumstances and how her ex now lives hidden away in Thailand under an alias with millions of dollars, she puts 2 and 2 together. In order to keep her quiet, Greg offers her $100,000. This would allow her to start her business the way she always wanted. However, it's Belinda's son Zion that swoops in with the counteroffer of $5 million, or 1% of what Greg made off the death of Tanya. Greg eventually accepts, and Belinda leaves Thailand $5 million richer and 1 porn chai poorer. Her windfall was also foreshadowed in episode 1.
I'm starting to feel like something good's gonna come out of this.
So what do we think about Belinda's decision? She essentially takes blood money to be kept quiet. She leaves porn shy, and I wonder if this will influence her dream of creating a spa facility for lower income individuals. She seems to be really wrapped up in this idea of wealth, and I wonder how this will change her. There's also something kind of ironic that she entered into a business with someone who left her, and now she does the same thing to porn shy. Greg and Chloe also seem to be doing well, with what appears to be Chloe trying to find a new prospective third in her weird scheme to have Greg watch them have sex so he can fulfill his childhood nightmare fantasy.
His worst nightmare was actually his erotic fantasy.
Now we gotta talk about our boy captain of the friend zone, Gaitok. Not only has he struggled to get the girl, but also faces his own internal struggles. By episode 7, he knows who's responsible for the robbery at the White Lotus, this being Valentin and his Russian friends. So he's faced with this dilemma. Does he turn Valentin in, which would be doing the right thing and might lead him to a promotion, or does he keep quiet, which would allow Valentin to remain in Thailand and might even save his life? As Valentin says, if he goes back to Russia, he will be killed. Throughout the season, Gaitok has struggled with whether he should be a security guard at all. He's just not a violent person. He's also a Buddhist, which preaches no violence and definitely no killing. But his love interest, Mook, tells him that violence is a part of nature we can't avoid. It's even implied that if Gaitok quits his job, Mook wouldn't see him as a potential husband. She puts off his second date and tells him that by quitting, he'd have to start a new career at the bottom. So when Gaitok hears shots fired, he springs into action and must make a choice. Will he shoot Rick or choose a path of peace? He ends up killing Rick. Was it the right choice? Well, that's up for debate. But his decision leaves him as Sritala's new driver and bodyguard, so some time has passed since this scene, which could mean this embrace between him and Mook means they're boyfriend-girlfriend. So the question his storyline leaves us with is it okay to go against one's values if it means getting what you want? He may get the girl and job at the end, but at the cost of betraying his religion and morals. Now let's talk about the 3 best girlfriends you could ever ask for, Jacqueline, Kate, and Laurie. Although they don't feature heavily in the final episode, I have to say I absolutely loved Carrie Coon's monologue about friendship, choice, and meaning. She states as the older we get, the more we have to justify our life choices, and we already know how much this idea of choice is prevalent in White Lotus. If anything, this trip to Thailand has given her an epiphany, that she doesn't need religion or God to give her life meaning, because time gives it meaning. Those small mundane moments being with those you love accumulated over time is what makes life worthwhile, and Laurie is just happy to be at the table. Before we end, I do want to briefly touch on some of the other characters. Saxton might actually show signs of changing. He's taken to Chelsea's outlook on the world and has even started to read some of her books. And when he sees Chelsea embrace Rick, I almost got the feeling that that's something he wants in his life. Our reformed partygoer Frank looks to have recovered from his relapse praying at a Buddhist temple, and the Russians are all out partying, happy they won't be deported. These scenes are all shown behind the backdrop of a religious carol called Lo How a Rose Ere Blooming, which is all about the fulfillment of the prophecy of Jesus' birth. No doubt an appropriate title given this season's emphasis on fate and religion. And while season 4 has been greenlit, there's still no word on cast or where its location will be. Creator Mike White has said it would be cool to do an all-star season sometime in the future where we get to see some of our favorite cast return. I also think it would be awesome to see a White Lotus season set in the past, like the 60s or 70s. That way we could see younger versions of Tanya, for example, and her complicated relationship with her mother. But now I turn it over to you. What did you think of season 3, and where would you like to see season 4? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BigStoryYT. Until next time, remember,
These gays, they're trying to murder me.